Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday. It's Sup Connect Live. Time to do an interview, which I'm so grateful for Sup Connect letting me do this. My name's Kristen Thomas, and it's been over a year now that almost every Thursday we have had an interview with somebody interesting. Today it's not just an interesting individual, but also a brand, which we haven't done too many of, but I think super interesting to see what's going on in the industry and learn about a brand as well as a person. So today we have Jordana Belle-Isle, and she is with Thurso Surf, an inflatable board company. I believe they're both out of Toronto. She is. Actually, I don't know where. I should have found out where Thurso Surf is from. But we're going to talk about both, and it's going to be a really interesting discussion. Jordana has been super active in the Great Lakes community for quite a bit of time now. But we're also super excited to talk about a new project they just launched, the Explorer Project. So that's going to be really fun to learn about. And I am going to look right now for Jordana. Just a reminder that while we are live, which we love, and we encourage you to try to ask questions. I do my best to try to, if it's very interesting on Instagram, to try to find them. This is also recorded, though, so you can find it right away on SupConnect's IGTV, and then it also will be on YouTube, both SupConnect and my channel, KT Outside. So there she is, right there. Jordana! Hopefully she can hear the intro. I always forget, and we found her. Yay!
Hi.
It always makes me so happy when it works.
I know. You have that moment of like, oh, is technology going to work? And then it works and it's beautiful.
And have my headphones plugged in, but I could still hear you.
That's good. Me too.
Yeah, now, even better. Well, you have a big fan club. We got a bunch of people listening from all over the world, which is really fun that SupConnect has such a following.
Amazing.
I don't know if you saw, but they do a little newsletter that goes out if you're on their mailing list. And I think it's like 30,000 plus people or something. And I'm sure growing, which we'll talk about today, because a side positive of this horrible pandemic is that a bunch of people discovered the outside.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. Super excited about your Explorer project. Did you actually launch it last week? Or are you still about to?
Yeah, so we actually have launched it last week and we've already got some submissions. So we're super excited about this. And I guess maybe I can talk a little bit about it for all of those who may not know about our SUP Explorer project. So it's basically a Google map of all different SUP spots around the world that we're trying to crowdsource. So I came up with this idea maybe about a year ago. Out of my kind of frustration with not always being able to find new paddle spots or information about these new paddle spots, as I'm sure like any paddle boarder has experienced. So I was like, it'd be really cool if we had just like this really simple Google map that you can kind of click on depending what area you're in and find out like, where can I go supping? So initially I was like, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to populate this map myself. I'm going to go to all the places. It's going to be great. And then I brought this project to Thurso and they're like, you know what? Why don't we crowdsource this? It would probably be a lot better. And I'm like, well, that makes total sense.
Yes, as much as we all love to travel and get around to spots, we need to share these. And I think this will be more important and more successful than ever right now, again, because there's a whole new crowd of enthusiasts like us. Now, let's back up, though. Great to hear about that, and we can talk about it some more. But I want to hear about you, because you have been super active since 2013, I think, and in a lot of different ways. But what's your SUP story? Where did you first see it or hear about it, or what got you hooked? What do you love about SUP?
Oh my gosh, I love everything about SUP. I'm a self-professed SUP nerd, which I'm sure you can relate to. I feel like my story is very similar to a lot of your guests. My origin story starts in Hawaii. So I went on my honeymoon to Hawaii, and of course I took a surf lesson, which that's what you do when you go to Hawaii. And I absolutely fell in love with surfing. Came home to Toronto and I was like, where can I do something similar here on the Great Lakes? And a friend of mine had got a Groupon for some local SUP lessons. And she was like, hey, do you want to come and join me? So I'm like, well, yeah, of course. It looks like a surfboard. I'm in. So I took that first lesson and just fell absolutely in love with the sport and was just taken from there. And that was, like you said, 2013. So 8 years later, here we are.
And I think it's true that it's a similar story for those, I would say pre about 2015 or 16, because it wasn't everywhere at that point in time, and it was in Hawaii. So that's where a lot of us, and that tie to surfing, but so many more people, especially, you're on, of course, a giant lake that becomes like an ocean and does have waves sometimes. There are
It
absolutely
does.
surfers, but there's a lot of people who've discovered it who don't have that same relationship to surfing. But so fun to hear that you found it. So even though it wasn't surfing Hawaii, you still found joy in it and enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So I just loved it. And it was kind of funny because with that first surf lesson, there was actually a local surfer next to us who was on a sup board. So it was kind of like, oh, this is in your future. It's right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I fell in love with supping, and I was really happy to find out that sup surfing was actually a thing on the Great Lakes, as it is everywhere where there's surf. So I've been surfing, supping, doing all the kinds of sup variations that are there since 2013.
Yeah. Well, I know we're going to talk about the brand, Thurso Surf and all,
Yep.
but even before that, were you an instructor? Because I know you've done a lot. You've done writing, you've done a ton of media. Did some of that happen before and then you found each other?
Yeah, so I've been writing for a long time, for most of my life. So it was a nice kind of marriage to have this interest of sup be married with my interest in writing. Yeah, so I am a certified instructor. I always take classes whenever I can or certifications. I'm currently certified with Paddle Canada, and I just got my Bronze Cross last year, which I'm super proud of. That was not easy. Yeah, and I do some writing. I do like a lot of freelance writing for different publications, and I actually work with Lake Surfistas, which is a nice community group of women who surf and sup the lakes year round.
Yeah.
So
And you're a co-founder of that group.
I'm not a co-founder, I'm a co-organizer. So
Co-organizer. Okay.
co-organizer, yeah.
Help lead the way. Well, that's fun. And it is so cool to hear about vibrant communities in many places. So when we announced that your interview was next, a lot of Canadian fans, I already saw that Maddie LeBlanc is like cheering you on. Yeah. So I love how much people do connect over this. I do want to know that Toronto sign that actually I learned about from Mike Shorman of Toronto, like for the picture we used, it's lit up and it's on the lake somewhere. I think it's right at the city. Have you
Yeah.
ever paddled in front of that? I don't know exactly where you live.
I think that must be the Inner Harbor in Toronto. So
Could
Toronto's
be.
amazing because we're right on Lake Ontario.
Hmm.
And just in the Inner Harbor, you can see the city skyline and the CN Tower. And you can go at night, and it's beautiful. It's lit up. I do have a photo there. Most suppers eventually will have a photo of themselves with the CN Tower behind them at night with the
Yeah.
city lights. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous.
I know. And I was surprised how much I like cities and paddling around cities. I didn't think, you think you want to be out in nature, which of course I love, but the iconic buildings and signs and just such a different view of a city to be on the water and looking back at it. Somebody did ask already a question I love to
Oh,
ask. It's like favorite spots. Do you have a favorite spot you have? Let's see. That's Paddle Club with a
yeah.
K. Do you maybe have a favorite spot you've been on a board?
Wow. It's hard to pick, isn't it?
Yes.
All the spots are so great. I do love a lot of the spots in Toronto. There is one in particular. It's Cherry Beach. And the reason I love Cherry Beach so much is that it's a launch spot to a lot of different parks in Toronto. So you can launch from Cherry Beach, you can get to the Toronto Islands and just paddle through the inner channels. It's this little system of islands we have just
Oh, neat.
near Toronto. And some people live off the islands, and it's actually a city park. So it's really beautiful to paddle and see like turtles and see the city skyline. And you can also go to Tommy Thompson Park, which is also another local Toronto park, and see some of the birds nesting there. So Cherry Beach, I would say, if you ever come to Toronto, is a
Neat.
great, excellent launch spot.
Yeah, well, to the project that you're working on, which is a fantastic idea,
Thank you.
that's something that's very helpful is to get those kind of, the like when you travel anywhere, that's what we look at more than like we want to know what people thought of it and what those who live in these places think, to get the real locals knowledge. So thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
And
Fantastic.
to that point, we want to
Hmm.
kind of welcome the whole community, all the paddleboarder community. We want to welcome them to come and contribute to the Sup Explorer map. So if anybody's listening and they're like, oh, I have a great spot, I wish I could tell more people about it, this is your chance.
Great. So I know Thurso Surf started with a couple of friends who had reconnected. I think they were friends from childhood,
Yeah.
um, and weren't finding just what they were looking for, a package that was affordable. But I assume, were surfers before, or like you know, had that connection to surf. So kind of tried to marry the whole idea of a board and the surf with the inflatable, which in Canada, I think, like Europe, it's always been popular. In the
Mhm.
US, it's really, but maybe it's where I am in the US, very surf area. And it really has taken a long time, but now it's just exploded. So tell me a little bit more about, are they also based in Toronto? About Thurso?
Yeah, so most of our operations are based in Toronto. We do have some people who are working remotely out of the US in Georgia, but mostly in Toronto. And they're just like a fantastic company. So I'm a relatively new employee. I joined about 6 months ago. And it's kind of nice because when I started paddleboarding, there wasn't a lot of options.
Mm.
So I remember just loving paddleboarding and wanting to buy one, and I couldn't afford one. Like the entry cost was like $2,000 just to get a board. So it's nice to have a company like Thurso where you can get this really great quality product and a whole package for maybe like half that price.
Yeah,
And they make excellent boards. I'm like super happy.
great. And as I think our audience again is from all over the place, and sometimes those people who've started on hardboards have trouble imagining what the inflatable is for, except a backup. But there are so many reasons why. And it really, what we've seen is that's during the pandemic, that's what people could get here. So we're seeing more inflatables in our area that didn't have as many than ever. But not only is there the portability, and you can keep it in your car or on your boat or whatever, if you live in a small, and again, that's, I think, to the point in Europe and Asia, if you
Hmm.
live on a fourth floor apartment and you don't have a garage, would you put a
Exactly.
14-foot board? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you need that kind of thing, but it's not just because of that. I mean, if you're on rivers and you have rock, I mean, they can be used for absolutely anything, but there's places where they're preferred for sure.
Absolutely.
Rivers, and especially if there's rocky entrances or you might be hitting something because of the durability. Um, I race also, so I have a 14-foot board, but that it's a fragile thing. You don't, you know, I have taken it down a wide river that does not have a lot of flow, but wouldn't want to take it through whitewater.
No, exactly. No, you make a great point. They're extremely durable. My first board was an inflatable board. I bought it secondhand and I have it to this day. If you buy a good inflatable board, they will last you for a long, long time. As you say, they're super durable. They don't
Mm-hmm.
ding like the hard boards do. And there's so many advantages to it. So when I first started, I actually did not have a car. So I would take my inflatable board with me on transit. And
I
here in
love it.
Toronto, we're actually lucky enough that we can take the bus or the subway down to the water. So I would kind of hoist it on my back or take it with my little wheels, like a little, as if I was traveling on an airplane. And people would look at me on the subway and be like, what's that? You know, especially when you have your paddle in the bag, it's kind of an odd shape. So people would be like, you know, where's she going? What's that? And I would go down to the water with my paddleboard and just inflate it there. So it makes the sport a lot more accessible to a lot more people, which is
Yeah,
fantastic.
which is fantastic, absolutely. And that's one of the most beautiful things about our watercraft is that it's just so versatile that it really can be done by anybody on any water. Yes, type of equipment is important and safety, but mainly it's about having fun and getting that access. And it's just allowed so many more people to enjoy in the water in so many different ways. So I know yes, I am a sup junkie or just like you. Love it, still love
Yay.
it. Don't plan to ever change from that. So
Hmm.
back to you. Besides the writing, you've had a chance, maybe as an instructor, to guide big groups. Is that part of living in a city, or do you have your own business as an instructor that you were able to work with groups from Google and L'Oreal? I
Yeah.
forget how to
Yeah.
pronounce the name of that,
You got it right.
but what's
Oh,
the
which one?
Scandinavian brand?
Oh, fall. You know what? I'm terrible at pronouncing it too. I think it's Fall
Okay.
Raven.
Yeah, I only know it in print. I don't know how to say it.
Yes, so I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of different great companies based in Toronto. There's Toronto Island Sup, there's Surf the Greats, and I work with them as an instructor. So there's a lot of companies based in Toronto that are often looking for team building activities or something different to do. So through these different opportunities, I've been able to work with these companies and offer them these opportunities. With Google, it was really nice. They did, one of their teams wanted to do a team building exercise and they wanted to do something good for the environment. So we actually did a cleanup via SUP. So they learned how to SUP and then we went on the water and then they did a little cleanup. So that was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. And what a great point to the versatility of stand-up, but also another piece, which you are the community manager for Thurso SUP. And we talk about community always and how lovely this community is. And does it come from, is it being on the water that makes us better people, or does stand-up paddling draw in good people?
Maybe it's a little bit of both. I think it's a little bit of both. I can tell you that I'm a way better person when I'm out on the water.
Yes, or having gotten to do that for the day. I mean, it really is, we've had topics of mental health and boy, during this pandemic where people were stuck inside, I'm so happy for people who did discover outside. And for me personally, if I hadn't been able to get out, that would be hard. Of course, I'm spoiled because I get to do it 12 months a year. Somebody did ask about Lake Ontario, what you might wear. Do you recommend a wetsuit?
Yes. So Lake Ontario is a funny creature. It is very deep and can get very cold. So the people who tend to go year round, so I actually do sup and surf year round, we have a whole wardrobe of wetsuits. So I have everything from a shorty all the way to like a 5'4". So it really depends. There's we can like check the buoy readings and see what the water temperature's on and then make our decision based on the water temperature. And
very interesting. And you're a surfer, so wetsuits. Do you ever use dry suits, which I've just learned about through all these interviews?
I have some friends who are avid users of dry suits. I'm not myself. I do like kind of the mobility of the wetsuit, and as a surfer, I kind of gravitate towards that. Yeah. But a dry suit, if you can afford it, is a great option.
Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, but equipment and all of that is super important to all of this, to what we do.
Absolutely.
I thought I saw one more question in here. trying to keep up.
They kind of scroll. I can't keep up.
So I know you're relatively new to Thurso, but I'd love to talk a little bit about the industry and how it's been for them. Have you had a chance to catch up with them on some of the things we said we might talk about?
Like absolutely.
How it's going in the SUP industry? Did they see growth like we have seen in person only during the pandemic?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And it's funny because I can speak to it both from the perspective of working for a SUP company, but also I used to work for a surf shop where we also sold SUP boards. So I can speak to it from both ends. The demand is incredible last year and then continuing on to this year, which is so exciting. But I'm sure a lot of people find it challenging to keep up with the demand.
Yes,
supply
run
chains
out in places.
Right. Those supply chains have been really impacted by COVID, unfortunately. And then marry that with all those new people coming to the sport who, of course, want to try it and get out there. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah, I hadn't had a chance. Shipping has certainly played a major role in the problems, and again through this pandemic and the changes and all. But I wonder about the product. Like I know in my husband's industry, it's causing a huge problem that the actual raw materials aren't available. So actually they can't even produce, even if their factory is running again. But there's just so many of these things that actually are causing some hiccups. That's the nice word, huh? Problems in all of it. Do you know if it's more than just shipping?
I really can't speak to that, but I do know that we haven't had as much production as we'd like to. Ideally, we would love to be able to provide boards to all the customers that want them, but unfortunately, we can't keep up with the demand. So, whether it's materials or shipping,
So it's definitely we have some challenges and some, but some positive too, some opportunities that come out of that. You've mentioned a couple. Anything else that you're seeing? So. Getting the product to people is a challenge, or to stores. Anything else in kind of that realm from the company side?
I'm trying to think right now. The opportunities are fantastic just to have all these new people come into SUP. And I think I've heard this in the industry at large is the big challenge is, yes, we want new paddlers, but we want them to be able to use their equipment safely and know how to be able to use it properly. So that kind of educational component can be challenging. And as a company, we're really trying to give people the resources they need to get out there the right way.
Great. I love to hear that because I agree wholeheartedly. There was a question here about safety, whether personally you prefer self-inflating PFD belts or standard PFD jackets.
Ooh, it depends on the situation. If I'm paddling on the lake and it's kind of a warm day and I'm near shore and I'm with other people, I'll usually take the belt, especially if I'm teaching, because it just gives me a bit more mobility. So say I need to jump in and help somebody. But if I'm on well, I shouldn't paddle on my own, shouldn't I? But if I am on my own,
yeah.
I don't encourage it. Or when I go in the winter, definitely the jacket, 100%. Because if I fall in the water, especially when it's colder, there might be cold shock. I need a life jacket to keep me safe.
Well, safety is super important. And we do run into, I think people sometimes though, globally, we haven't actually agreed exactly what everything should be. In the United States, 2008, I think they didn't know where to put stand-up paddling. They decided we were a vessel. So we are categorized as a kayak and canoe, which, not negative or positive, just is what it is. But because of that, we definitely followed a little bit more. PFDs are required by law in most places, Coast Guard policy, although wherever you are, you need to check that out. But then other places in the world, it's the leash or the leg rope that is they believe is the most essential piece of equipment. Do you find in Toronto area that people use leashes also?
Yes, I'm happy to report that I do see leash usage. So yay to everybody who uses their leash. I was going to say, so Canada is very similar with the US in terms of their law. And a really funny thing, though, is we used to also be categorized under kayaks and canoes. So one of the things we were required to carry was a bailer.
That doesn't make much sense.
And all the paddleboarders were like, what are you going to do with the bailer? So they've changed it. Transport Canada has since changed that. But it was interesting because they didn't know what to do with us. They're like, who are these people?
Yeah,
what are they doing? They're standing on a board. What do we do with them?
I do feel like we're finally getting to the point. We have so many fantastic things that we have adapted from surf and from kayak and canoe, but we need to rethink them and imagine them a little bit on what really works for stand-up paddleboards. Because I think there's definitely some tweaks that can still be made in safety equipment and other equipment too that we adopted from other similar but not exactly the same craft and situations. So how about your company? Like, what are their objectives, or what kind of is their mission, their personality?
Yeah. I love working for them. They're fantastic. So they were really influenced by surf culture. So based on the name, based on the kind of look of the boards, you've got that really great wooden heritage look of their boards, which I think is really unique. So their whole thing is they really want to provide boards to those mid-range customers. So the ones that they can't go out and they can't buy the most expensive boards, but they're still looking for quality at a really good price, and looking for that full package too. Because it's kind of funny, sometimes you do have SUP boards that are sold without the leash or without the paddle, and you have to kind of get all those elements together. So this is kind of an all-in-one package, which is so easy and so great. And their whole thing too is really about educating and creating this community for their customers. We really consider our customers our community, and we want them to be able to come back to us time and time again and ask us questions, and for us to provide the resources to them. So we have...
Shoot. Oh, you're back. Okay. I lost you for a second. I'm
Did
not
I
sure
freeze?
what happened.
Oh,
yeah.
no.
You froze for just one moment, but
that
you're back.
happens. Yeah. So I was saying that we really want to provide that kind of end-to-end experience for our customers who we consider a community, and just make sure they have all the resources they need to get out and do the sport they love in the way they love, and be able to come to us with any questions they have. Board, how do I go faster? Or how do I convert it into a kayak like I've been seeing other people doing? We have our blog where we post a couple of times a month, and try and educate and give more and more resources to the community at large.
Right.
So we're really kind of building this idea of Thurso is a community. And when you buy a board, it's not just like, here's your board, see ya. It's here's your board, tell us about your experience and ask us all the questions you'd like.
That's fantastic. And I think we all want that. That's sometimes the big concern if there isn't a package and they buy just a piece of the equipment at a big, a big chain store or something rather than the small specialty retail that we love to encourage people to go to. But, that's okay if they do it safely and they have fun and they love it. And it's always a concern if they're doing it wrong and think they can't because of the wrong sized equipment, or maybe just a excruciatingly heavy paddle is one of the things that I see people saying, oh, I'm not strong enough for this. It's like, wait, try mine, really. There are other options. We want them to have a good time. We want them to love it as much as we do, I think. And I love that spirit that's in, I'm sure it's in other parts of the outdoor world, but I just feel it so strongly in stand-up paddling because we are still fairly young. And even you and I who've done it for a bit still feel this enthusiastic.
And I love that you, sorry interrupting.
No, go ahead.
I love that you talked about accessories and about a heavy paddle, because that's another thing that Thurso's doing. We're really trying to make sure it's not just the board that's excellent, but it's also the accessories that come with. So when you buy a Thurso board, you get a carbon hybrid paddle, so it's nice and light. And you get like a pump that's dual chamber, triple action, so you can really get pumping really quickly, because that can be one of the challenging parts of having an inflatable board, is getting it pumped up. So it's not just the board itself, but it's everything, the whole package that comes with it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we have some people talking about how much they love their different boards.
Aw, people are so nice.
Thanking you for giving back to the environment. I know in the past they've supported ocean conservation initiatives. And I would add that we were talking about the new people and the education needed, you were saying, in terms of safety and doing it correctly, and also doing it. I actually haven't noticed it as much as I pick up plastic every time I'm on the water. I think people are pretty good on the water, but I live at the top of a mountain bike and hiking trail, and I can't believe those who are new to the outdoors, how much they litter. Or, there's just like not the same environmental sensitivity. And I don't want to be, rude about that. But I think, again, a lot of education is needed. Thrilled for them that they have found the outdoors and are finding activities that are good for their mental and physical health. But yes, education needed on many levels.
Absolutely. And I think the more that people get out into nature, the more they'll understand and come to that realization that you can come out and play in nature, but you also have to respect it too, or else it's not going to be around anymore. Well,
yeah. And we weren't going to talk about safety, but one more thing that I feel strongly about is, and that we don't talk about as much, is swimming and then water. Talk about respecting Mother Nature. People who haven't had spent time on water, in water, don't really understand how much you need to respect water, So I think it's interesting. I have not served in your position of being in a place. I have taken groups out. I want them to be able to swim. And I know people have mixed feelings about this, because if you have an inherently buoyant PFD, in theory it will float you, but we know drowning is about panicking and about how you feel about the water. And you deal with cold water, which locally we don't have the same. We're not likely to have hypothermia. So understanding water and conditions, I think, super important. And boy, I think swimming, well, for so many reasons, I'm a swimmer, past swimmer. So I just think that's something we have to work on, because there hasn't been access for everyone to get swimming lessons when they're kids, and learning how to swim and access to water early to allow them to easily branch off into all these different things. So sorry, it's not supposed to be my place to get on my high horse, but.
You need to tell everybody that, because I actually will not teach somebody if they can't swim. They don't need to be an expert swimmer. I'm not a great swimmer, but as long as you can tread water and not panic, you're good to go. Yeah. And the whole safety thing too, people often underestimate Lake Ontario, because they hear lake and they're like, oh, it's just a lake, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's a great lake. Actually, one of my friends pointed out it's actually a freshwater sea because of the size of it. So you got to respect the lakes, respect the water.
I'm going to start calling it that. Oh yeah, some of the choppiest water I've ever been in has been in a lake. Yeah. One of the Great Lakes. and I'm usually in the ocean, so that says a lot. So, you guys working with like where is what regions do you sell to, and is it expanding? Or are you staying fairly local? Are you mostly Canada or
Yeah, so we
where's?
actually sell to the US, Canada, Europe, and the UK. So we serve all those markets. People buy directly from our website, which is nice. So we can
Mhm.
have that direct contact with our customers. And within those regions, we do have some areas that buy more than others. So in Canada, BC, Quebec, and Ontario, they're very sporty provinces and they all have great access to water. So we see a lot of sales there. In the US, of course, the usual suspects, California, Florida, Colorado, and Washington are all big markets for us. The UK as a whole, it's funny, I've never think the UK because I've never really supped there, but it makes sense, right, when you see where they are geographically. And in
Yeah.
Europe, Germany and Spain.
Yeah, I have learned so much about that we hear from people in those places, but the UK especially has such a paddle culture. It's crazy. I mean, it really isn't that big, but they have so much going on there and so many people doing interesting things. And it's been great to learn from and about different people in the UK. I think that's been especially fun.
Yeah.
Um, your products. So I guess the product comes with the accessories, right? Or do you
Mhm.
sell things separately? It's that package is where your sales are at. So it's not like you have a different or within, do you have different lengths of boards or
We do.
heights?
So we
Hmm.
have the Water Walker series, which is kind of like our all-around sup, and that comes in three different sizes. We have options for lighter paddlers, we have options for heavier paddlers, and that comes as a full package. We also have some specialty boards. We have the Expedition, which is our touring board, so you can go
Hmm.
a little bit faster. It's a little bit narrower. There's the Max, which is a multi-purpose board. So if you're the kind of person who wants to like sup with their kids, sup with their dog, have the whole gang on the board, you can have fun with the Max.
Hmm.
We have the Prodigy, which is the kids' boards too, which sell very well, and they have a really cool camo print on them.
Yeah.
And then we have the Tranquility, which is the yoga board. So we have a pretty good variety of different subs for different people. And all those boards come as a full package, but you also have the option of buying accessories separately. So if somebody
Yeah.
out there is like, hey, I want a Thurso paddle or a pump, well, you can just buy one of those if you'd like.
Great. So it's great to have all that variety. Which percentage wise, how would you break it down? Do you know? Is it that
The
the
water
main board?
walker,
Hmm.
yeah, the water walker is definitely our biggest seller. We have a lot of entry level people coming in. This is like their first board they're buying. And it's a great board. When I first bought an inflatable, I bought an all around board. And you can do so much with it. Like I've
Hmm.
surfed it, I've toured with it, I've done yoga on it. So that is kind of our biggest recommendation and definitely our flagship board.
Great. Erin in Toronto has two young girls, 8 and 12, that love their Prodigy boards. I don't know if you saw that. Wanted to make
I
sure
think I
they're hooked.
did.
They're hooked on supping, even though I do all the pumping.
That's amazing. He's gonna have to
Yeah.
teach them how to pump those boards.
I
It reminds me when I was a kid and I'd go ice skating, my dad always had to tie my ice skates. So it's like kind of the thing with the parents, right? Your kids get into
yeah.
sports, but you still have to
You
kind of do
have
the pumping or the
some
shoelace tying.
some relationship to it. Yeah. Yeah. It'll build up their pedal muscles by helping them
Yes.
pump a little bit.
But it
Yeah.
makes me so happy when I see
Hmm.
young people getting into sup. Like I wish
Yeah.
this existed when I was a kid.
Yeah. Agreed. I mean, I started, yeah, really old. I'm a lot older than you. Um, Retailers, what kind of retailer do you usually sell to, or do you sell mostly online, or do you sell through specialty retail?
Yeah, we
Is
actually
it,
sell
yeah,
direct to customer through our website.
yeah.
So we're not in the retail shops right now, but
Mm.
it's fantastic because, like I said, we can just definitely have that relationship with the customer. So they can just contact us directly and we can give them recommendations. If they have any issues, we can take care of that. So they're always coming back to us. And it's funny because sometimes I'll help somebody who maybe has an issue and then I'll see them on social media using their board. So it's really nice to have that
Yeah,
kind of
fun.
holistic, yeah, to
Yeah.
see like, oh my gosh, you had an issue, but I helped you with it, and now you're out there using your board and loving it. So it's really fulfilling.
That is great. So the Sub Explorer project, if somebody wanted to contribute to help you with a location what's the best way, or who do they reach? Do they go to your
Yeah.
website, or do you have an email address, or what do you suggest?
So they can come to our website. It's thursosurf.com. And there's a link to the Sub Explorer submission page. Actually, I should kind of look at it.
Yeah.
So let me just take.
Well, it's all so new, I know.
It's there, I know. So actually, they go to Thurso Surf, and there's a little drop-down menu that says crew. Oh, not crew, sorry, community. I should know this. I'm the community manager. And there's a link to the Sub Explorer map, which also has our submission form on it. So they can check out the map, see the locations that we have, and submit themselves.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
So you write, you teach, you work with Thurso. You sound like a very busy young lady.
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
Was
I
your
try and
background
balance it all.
did you, was writing your first thing? What was before SUP? Well, I know
Oh
you
my
said it was on
goodness.
your honeymoon that you first discovered it. So
Yes.
did you pull your husband into it too, or is it more your thing?
You know what? It started out as my thing. My husband is not as athletic as I am, but he's gotten into it. So sometimes he'll be like, "Hey, can we go paddleboarding this weekend?" And I'm like, "But of course we can." Like I get really excited. So he loves
Yes.
it because it's actually very calm and relaxing, and he likes
Hmm.
that aspect of it. And once you learn how to do it, it's pretty accessible. A lot of people of different abilities can learn how to sup. So that really appeals to him. So yeah, sometimes he comes with me and we go, I try and be easy on him. I'll kind of go ahead and look behind and be like, okay, come on, a little
That's fun.
faster. But it's
Well, I'm
great.
just sorry on my honeymoon where I went through Toronto that I didn't know about paddling because it was almost 35 years ago. We actually windsurfed on your lake, on
Oh,
your
wow.
inland sea, because that was the sport of the 80s,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
way back, and that's what we were into then. Yeah,
Amazing.
my
Where did you
husband is
go
a
on your honeymoon? Sorry.
we did the really corny, flew to Niagara Falls, started there, drove around the lake, did a little bit of Toronto in a famous old hotel, and I'm not going to remember it, the Royal something.
Royal York.
Yes. Um, but then my sister was in college in New York, and her boyfriend at the time offered us a house in the Thousand Island Lake area.
Mhm.
So went down there and stayed. It was just so cool. There was a cabin on every single little, rock island, and everybody had their own. You had to take a boat to get to it. So
That sounds
anyway,
lovely. I love
it was
that.
lovely. I just wish I knew about stand-up paddleboarding. I'll have to come back to Toronto because I want that picture in front of that really amazing sign and the
Yes.
tower in the background and all of
Please
that.
do. Come to Toronto. We'll give you a tour on our boards. It'll
Ah,
be
thank
great.
you. Yeah, have met so many fantastic Canadians. I've surfed a little bit in BC,
Mhm.
not surfed, paddled. Would love to surf at Tofino. That's supposed to be. Have you ever been out that way?
I have. Unfortunately, I wasn't into surfing or paddleboarding when I was in Tofino, so it was kind of wasted on me. But I do plan to go back and maybe, hopefully, if we're allowed to go see Maddie, when travel opens up again here in
Yeah.
Canada.
Oh, good. Yes, I hope it does soon for all of our sakes. But of course, we need to do it safely and correctly.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see Maddie in Hungary in September, but that's a big leap. We have a long way to get there in
Fingers
terms of
crossed.
travel. Yes, so keep your fingers crossed for us. Love that. Anything else about you want to share about what you're up to on the water or Thurso Sup before we close it out?
Oh my goodness, what do I want to share? That's like an open-ended question. I just want to, what I do want to say, and I'm kind of a big advocate of this, is that sometimes I feel that the surf and sup industry, we need to kind of put more diversity at the forefront. I'm a big believer that representation matters,
Hmm.
especially growing up as an athletic girl. I didn't really see a lot of women represented in sports in the 80s and 90s. And now that's changed, which is fantastic. But now I don't really see the people that I see out on the water represented in surf and sup media. And I think we need to kind of, as an
Yes.
industry, kind of push that a little more
Hmm.
because it definitely matters. And if somebody sees somebody like them getting out and doing the sport, then they'll be more likely to do that sport and think, yes, this is for me. And somebody
Absolutely.
just said age diversity also, and I
Hmm.
absolutely agree. It's not just background, it's ages, it's abilities, everything. Let's
Yeah.
diversify surf and sub media. Let's do it.
Yes. I Completely agree. That's such a great closing thought, and let's continue to work on that, especially in an industry that is different because it's younger, and we can make a difference and change things because it's new enough and young enough. I mean, to
Absolutely.
have it be half women at the recreational level is pretty cool for a water sport. That's something that hasn't happened before. So
Isn't it
we built,
exciting being at
yeah,
the forefront of the sport?
it is.
I love it. It's so good.
I love that.
It's just
Yeah,
amazing to see how much it's changed throughout the years
yeah,
and how much it's grown. It's incredible.
agreed. Well, so lovely to share some time with you and meet you. I hope to meet you in person, Jordana, at some point in time. Love learning about Thurso Surf too. Fantastic. So we got the website to check out. I can't wait to check out. I just might have to add a location on your new project.
Please do. We
Yeah.
would love to have your input. And to everybody out there, if you have location, definitely add it to our Sup Explorer map. And if you're out there on your Thurso your Thurso surfboards, tag us on social media. We'd love to repost from our
Oh,
community and see everybody out there on their boards.
very fun. Well, Kristen Thomas and Jordana Belle-Isle signing off. Thank you, SupConnect, for letting us do these interviews. Really exciting to talk to you, learn about you and your projects and Thurso Surf. And remember, everybody, this does get recorded, so you can send somebody to IGTV right away on SupConnect's Instagram. It also will end up on YouTube. And we have a Facebook page. It's kind of got a long name, but hashtag SupConnect Live will get you there. And yeah, we'll put, if there's anything else you want to put, or the link to the website, a link directly, maybe even to the page to submit locations.
That would be great.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me,
Okay,
Kristen.
thank you.
And thank you, SupConnect. Thank you, everybody who tuned in.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Have a
Have a
great
wonderful
Thursday.
day. Bye.
Bye.